Why it sucked to be a Soviet cosmonaut. Hey guys, tonight we journey back in time to a world of fierce ideology, state-enforced secrecy, and immense, terrifying bravery. We are pulling back the Iron Curtain, not to look at the lives of spies or soldiers, but at a different kind of hero. A hero of the state, a symbol of progress, a man strapped to the top of a converted intercontinental ballistic missile, all for the glory of the people. We're going to explore why it truly, deeply, and profoundly sucked to be a Soviet cosmonaut. This is a story that goes beyond the ticker tape parades and the heroic black and white photographs. It's a story of crushing pressure, of primitive and dangerous technology, of profound isolation, and of the immense personal sacrifice required to be the first in the cosmos. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. It truly helps the channel find other sleepless souls like us. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I like to imagine someone in a tiny apartment in Tokyo, another in a cabin in Norway, and someone else in bed at 3:47 a.m. in Milwaukee, wondering how astronomy turned into this. Now dim the lights if you haven't already. Let the world outside your window fade away. Maybe there's a gentle hum from a fan, or the soft whisper of leaves in the breeze. Let's create our own little pocket of tranquility and journey back together across the sands of time. Imagine you are standing in a small, windowless room. The air smells sharply of industrial-grade disinfectant and old wool. You are not wearing a futuristic silver jumpsuit. You are wearing nothing but a pair of scratchy, state-issue linen shorts. The floor is cold beneath your bare feet. A single bare bulb hangs from the ceiling, casting harsh, unflattering shadows. In front of you is a stern-faced doctor in a white coat, a man who looks less like a medical professional and more like a butcher who has misplaced his apron. He is holding a clipboard. He does not smile. Welcome to your medical examination for the Vostok program. You are a pilot, one of the best fighter pilots the Soviet Air Force has ever produced. You have flown at the edge of the sky, danced with gravity, and felt the thrill of speed in your very bones. You are a patriot. You love the motherland. And when the quiet, serious men from the Ministry of Defense came to your airbase and asked for volunteers for a new, top-secret program of special importance, you, along with hundreds of your comrades, stepped forward. You did not do it for fame. At this point, in the late 1950s, the word cosmonaut does not even exist in the public consciousness. The program is a state secret of the highest order. You did it for duty, for the thrill, for the chance to serve your country in a way no one ever has before. Now, you're beginning to understand what that service entails. This is not a simple physical. This is an interrogation of your body. They measure everything: the length of your fingers, the circumference of your skull, the exact distance between your eyes. They take samples of your blood, your urine, your saliva. They attach cold, metal electrodes to your chest and your head, recording the frantic, nervous beat of your heart and the chaotic flicker of your brainwaves. The doctor with the clipboard asks you a series of blunt, invasive questions about your childhood, your parents, your fears, your dreams. He is not looking for insight, he is searching for weakness. Any sign of psychological instability, any hint of doubt, any deviation from the ideal profile of a perfect, unquestioning Soviet hero, and you will be thanked for your time and sent back to your airbase, your brief, secret dream over before it began. You answer his questions with a steady voice, your face a mask of patriotic calm, all while your heart tries to hammer its way out of your chest. You are more terrified in this cold, sterile room than you have ever been in the cockpit of a flaming MiG, and somehow you pass. You are one of the chosen few, one of 20 men selected from over 3,000 pilots. You feel a surge of immense pride, a feeling so potent it almost makes you dizzy. You are one of them. You are destined for the stars, but you do not go to a futuristic spaceport. You do not go to a grand academy. You are put on a train, and you are taken deep into a forest outside of Moscow. You arrive at a place that doesn't officially exist, a collection of grim, functional, concrete buildings surrounded by a high fence topped with barbed wire, nestled amongst towering pine trees. The roads are unpaved, a sea of mud in the spring, and a cloud of dust in the summer. This is Zvyazny Gorodok, Star City, The name is a beautiful, poetic lie. At this stage, it is little more than a glorified top-secret prison camp for heroes. Your life is no longer your own. It belongs to the state, and more specifically, to one man you will almost never see. A man spoken of only in whispers. A man known only by his title, the chief designer. Sergei Korolev. He is a legend, a ghost, a former Gulag prisoner himself, who is now the iron-willed genius driving the entire Soviet space effort. His word is law, his vision is absolute, and his standards are impossibly, brutally high. You are now a piece of clay to be molded or broken by his grand design. Your training begins, and you quickly learn that this is not about flying. You already know how to fly. This is about enduring. It is a systematic, scientific, and utterly brutal attempt to find your breaking point. Your new home is the centrifuge, a monstrous 20-meter-long rotating arm at the end of which is a small, claustrophobic capsule. Your job is to climb inside, get strapped down, and be spun until the force of acceleration threatens to crush you into a thin paste. They start at 3 Gs, then 5, then 8. The immense weight settles on your chest. Breathing becomes a conscious, desperate act. Your lungs feel like they are filled with wet concrete. Your own blood becomes a leaden weight in your veins. Your vision narrows to a gray tunnel as the blood is forced from your eyes. You taste metal in your mouth. Your only job is to remain conscious, to answer the simple arithmetic problems crackling through your headset, to prove that your mind can still function while your body is being systematically dismantled by physics. After a run, you stumble out, your body screaming in protest, every muscle aching, only to be told you will be doing it again tomorrow at a higher G-load. This is not training. This is torture, rebranded as patriotic duty. Then there is the heat chamber, a small, insulated room where the temperature is cranked up to a blistering 70 degrees Celsius, the air as dry as a desert wind. You sit there for hours, dressed in your full flight gear, sweat pouring from your body, your heart pounding, while doctors monitor your vital signs from the other side of a small window. They are testing to see when you will break, when your body's core temperature will rise to a dangerous level, when you will simply pass out. It is a test of pure, passive endurance, a battle against heat and time. But the worst part, the part that truly tests your soul, is the isolation chamber, the pseudo-camera, a small, soundproof, light-proof room. You are sealed inside. There is no day, there is no night. There is no sound but the whisper of your own breathing and the frantic beat of your own heart. You are completely, utterly alone, for days on end, sometimes for 2 weeks. Your only contact with the outside world is a small panel of lights through which you are given simple, monotonous tasks to perform. You are constantly monitored by cameras and microphones, your every twitch, every sigh, every muttered word recorded and analyzed by a team of psychologists. They are searching for the first signs of cracking, of paranoia, of hallucination. The silence is not peaceful. It is a physical presence, a heavy, suffocating pressure. The darkness is absolute. After a few days, your mind, starved of stimulus, begins to play tricks on you. You hear phantom noises, a distant voice, a piece of music. You see fleeting shapes in the corners of your eyes. You lose all track of time. Has it been 4 days, or 6, an hour, or a minute? Your entire sense of self begins to unravel, to fray at the edges. This is the true test. Can you endure the void? Not the physical void of space, but the psychological void of absolute solitude. Because when you are up there, in that tiny metal ball, you will be more alone than any human has ever been in history. And the state needs to know that you will not break, that you will not go mad, that you will remain a perfect, functioning, reliable component of their great machine. You emerge from the pseudo-camera pale, disoriented, your social skills completely eroded, feeling like a ghost in your own skin. You have passed. You have proven you can endure the silence, but a small part of you, you suspect, was left behind in that dark, quiet room, a part you will never get back. You survive the training, or rather, you endure it. You emerge from the months of brutal physical and psychological conditioning, leaner, harder, and quieter. You are no longer just a pilot. You are a cosmonaut candidate, a member of the most exclusive and secretive fraternity in the Soviet Union. You and the others in your group, the Vanguard 6, the top candidates for the first flight, are now national treasures, kept under a level of security that rivals the state's nuclear secrets. And now, you finally get to meet your chariot, your spaceship. And the reality of it is both thrilling and profoundly, deeply terrifying. You are taken to the assembly hangar at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, a vast, sprawling launch facility situated in the middle of the desolate, windswept steppes of Kazakhstan. It is a place of immense scale and stark, brutalist beauty. And there, in the center of the hangar, sitting atop the colossal R-7 rocket, is the Vostok capsule. Your first thought is, that's it? It is tiny. A small, metal sphere, not much larger than a bathtub, covered in a strange, ablative heat shield material that looks like burnt cork. It does not look like a spaceship from the science fiction magazines you secretly read as a boy. It does not look sleek or graceful or advanced. It looks like a cannonball, a cramped industrial and vaguely agricultural piece of hardware. There are no wings, there are no fins, there is no concession to aesthetics whatsoever. It is a machine built for one purpose and one purpose only: to survive being thrown into space, and with luck, to survive falling back through the atmosphere. You are allowed to climb inside. The hatch is a small, circular opening, and you have to contort your body to get in. Inside, it is even more cramped than you imagined. The space is dominated by a single, large ejection seat. The walls are a chaotic jungle of pipes, wires, and dials with stark, Cyrillic lettering. The main viewport, the tiny window through which you will see the Earth, is at your feet. You will have to crane your neck to look out of it. You sit there, in the cold, metallic confines of the capsule, and a wave of claustrophobia, a feeling you haven't had since the isolation chamber, washes over you. This will be your entire world. This small metal sphere is where you will eat, sleep, work, and quite possibly die. And you begin to learn about the systems. And every lesson fills you with a mixture of awe at the ingenuity and horror at the compromises. The chief designer, Korolev, is a genius, but he is a genius working under immense political pressure and with limited resources. The Vostok is a masterpiece of pragmatic, corner-cutting, good-enough engineering. Take the controls, for instance. There are almost none. The entire flight is designed to be completely automated, controlled by ground stations or a simple, onboard clockwork mechanism. Why? Because the scientists are not entirely sure what will happen to a human mind in the weightlessness of space. They are genuinely worried you might go mad, that you might become paralyzed, that you might be unable to function. So they have designed a spaceship that a pilot cannot fly. You, one of the best pilots in the Soviet Union, are being sent into space as a passenger, a biological specimen, a piece of cargo. There is a manual override, of course, a small sealed panel on the dashboard. But to access it, you have to enter a 3-digit code. And the code is not given to you. It will be kept in a sealed envelope, physically strapped to the inside of your capsule. The idea is that if you are sane enough to find the envelope, open it, and correctly punch in the code, then you are probably sane enough to be trusted with manual control. It is a ludicrous, insulting, and yet strangely logical solution to a problem no one has ever faced before. It is the Soviet way. Then there is the landing system. This is perhaps the most terrifying part of all. The Vostok capsule has no way to land softly. It has a parachute, but even with that, it is designed to hit the ground with an impact that would turn a human body into jelly. So what is the solution? The solution is that you don't land with the capsule. At an altitude of about 7,000 meters, during the final fiery descent, the main hatch of the capsule will be blown off with explosive bolts. A moment later, your entire seat will be ignited by a rocket motor, and you will be ejected from the falling sphere, out into the supersonic slipstream. You will then separate from the seat and deploy your own personal parachute and land, hopefully gently, somewhere on the vast open steppes of the motherland. You are not just a cosmonaut, you are a human cannonball, an amateur paratrooper, and you have to perform this violent, complex, and terrifying sequence of events after having spent hours or even days in the debilitating effects of weightlessness. You practice this over and over again, in ground simulators, in aircraft making parabolic dives. You learn every step of the sequence until it is muscle memory. But you know, and your instructors know, that no simulation can truly prepare you for the reality of being blasted out of a falling spaceship at 20,000 feet. The secrecy surrounding all of this is absolute. The state has decided how the story of the first spaceflight will be told, and the story is one of perfect, flawless, heroic achievement. There is no room in this narrative for terrifying last-minute ejections. So the landing system is a state secret. For years, the official story will be that the cosmonauts landed inside their capsules. It is a lie, a great patriotic lie, told to the world to maintain the illusion of technological superiority over the Americans. You are expected not just to risk your life, but to be complicit in the lie about how you risked it. This lie is part of a larger, all-encompassing culture of secrecy and propaganda. You are now a symbol. Your face, your name, your biography, they no longer belong to you. They belong to the state's propaganda machine. You are photographed constantly, always smiling, always looking strong, healthy, and confident. You are paraded in front of party officials. You give stilted, pre-scripted interviews to state-approved journalists. But your actual life is a secret. Your family is moved to a new, secure apartment. They are told not to speak of your work to anyone. Your own name will not be released to the world until after you are safely in orbit. The state has a backup plan. If your launch fails, if you are incinerated in a fireball on the launch pad, your existence will be denied. You will simply vanish. You will become an unperson, a ghost who never was. The backup cosmonaut, your friend and comrade, will take your place, and the world will never know you even existed. The psychological pressure is immense. You are living a dual life. In public, when you are allowed out of the secret confines of Star City, you are a simple Air Force major. In secret, you are a national hero in waiting, carrying the hopes and dreams of the entire Soviet Union on your shoulders. You have to be perfect. You have to be infallible. One mistake, one careless word, one moment of weakness, and you will not only be disgraced, but you will have failed the motherland itself. The competition with the Americans, the space race, is a relentless driving force. Every decision made by the chief designer, every risk taken, is dictated by one overarching goal: to be first. First man in space. First man to orbit the Earth. First woman. First spacewalk. First to the moon. It is not a scientific endeavor. It is an ideological war fought with rockets instead of tanks. And you are the frontline soldier in this war. The corners that are cut, the systems that are not fully tested, the risks that are accepted, you are the one who will pay the price if the gamble doesn't pay off. You hear rumors of catastrophic failures on the launch pad, of rockets exploding and killing dozens of engineers and technicians. These stories are whispered in hushed tones, then quickly silenced. They are state secrets. The official narrative is one of unbroken success. You feel like an actor in a grand, state-produced play. You have been given your costume, your lines, your heroic role to play, but you are acutely aware that the stage you are about to step onto is real, the rocket is real, and the fire is real. And if you miss your cue, or if the stage machinery fails, there are no second takes. There is only a brief, searing flash of light, and then an eternal, silent darkness. And the state will simply find another actor to take your place, and the show will go on. The only thing more terrifying than the thought of dying is the thought of dying and being erased, your sacrifice rendered meaningless for the sake of a perfect story. The weeks leading up to the first flight are a blur of intense, repetitive simulations and final preparations. The immense, sprawling machinery of the state has now focused its entire will on a single point: you, or rather, on the man who will be you. Because even now, with the launch just days away, the final decision of who will fly has not been made public. You and your closest comrade, the man who has been your shadow, your competitor, and your friend through every brutal step of this journey, are both being prepared as if you are the one. You are flown to the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the launch site in the Kazakh steppe. It is a place of stark, profound emptiness. The land is flat and brown, stretching to a horizon that seems infinitely far away. The only features are the concrete launch pads, the massive assembly buildings, and the occasional lonely camel, chewing impassively as a truck carrying a rocket section rumbles past. The sky above is vast and achingly blue. There is nothing here but the steppe, the sky, and the immense, focused ambition of the Soviet space program. You are placed in strict medical quarantine. Your diet is a bland, scientific concoction of pureed foods served in tubes, the same food you will eat in orbit. You are poked, prodded, and monitored constantly. Doctors check your sleep patterns, your heart rate, your mood. They are looking for any last-minute sign of illness or weakness that could scrub you from the mission. You feel less like a heroic pilot and more like a prize racehorse, being meticulously groomed and inspected before the big race. The night before the launch, the decision is finally officially made. It is you. You will be the first. The announcement is made not in a grand ceremony, but in a quiet, formal meeting with a handful of engineers and officials. Your friend, the backup, is the first to congratulate you. He claps you on the shoulder, his smile genuine, but his eyes holding a universe of disappointment. You feel a surge of triumph, immediately followed by a pang of guilt. You have won, but your victory is his loss. This strange, intimate rivalry, the bond forged in the centrifuge and the isolation chamber, is now at an end. From this moment on, your paths diverge forever. You will go to the stars. He will watch from the ground. You try to sleep, but sleep is impossible. Your mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, a chaotic mix of technical procedures, patriotic pride, and a deep, primal, animal fear. You think of your family. You think of your childhood. You think of the terrifying violence of the ejection seat. You lie in your sterile bed in the cosmonaut's cottage, listening to the lonely wind whistling outside, and you feel the immense, crushing weight of history settling upon your shoulders. Tomorrow, you will become a part of it, or you will die and be erased from it. There is no middle ground. The morning of April 12th, 1961 arrives, cold and clear. You are awakened before dawn. The routine is calm, methodical, designed to keep the terror at bay. The doctors perform one last check. You are pronounced fit. You are then dressed, not by yourself, but by a team of technicians. They help you into the layers of your flight gear, culminating in the bulky, bright orange SK-1 pressure suit. It is heavy, cumbersome, and smells of rubber and disinfectant. Finally, they place the white helmet over your head, its CCCP lettering stark and red. The faceplate is sealed. From now on, your world is the sound of your own breathing, amplified in your ears, and the crackle of the communications link in your helmet. You walk out of the cottage. The chief designer, Sergei Korolev, is there waiting for you. He's a man you have rarely seen, a figure of almost mythical status. He looks tired, older than his years, the immense stress of his position etched onto his face. He doesn't smile, he simply looks at you, a long, appraising gaze. He places his hands on your helmet, a gesture that is both a benediction and a final inspection. He says a few quiet, simple words of encouragement. You nod, unable to speak, your throat suddenly tight. This stern, brilliant, complicated man is entrusting his life's work, his dreams, and the prestige of the entire Soviet Union to you. A bus takes you to the launch pad. As you get closer, the rocket looms into view, a colossal white spear pointing at the pale morning sky, venting clouds of super-cold liquid oxygen that swirl around its base like a mystical fog. It is the most beautiful and most terrifying thing you have ever seen. It feels alive, a sleeping giant breathing vapor. The ride up the service elevator is slow and clanking. You step out onto the gantry, high above the ground. The wind is sharp and cold. You look down, and the world seems small and far away. You turn, and there is the hatch to your capsule, Vostok 1. It looks impossibly small. You perform a series of pre-flight checks with the lead technician, your voice, you hope, sounding calm and professional over the radio, even as your heart pounds a frantic rhythm against the inside of your suit. You shake hands, and then you squeeze yourself through the narrow hatch and into the cramped ejection seat. The technicians strap you in, pulling the harnesses so tight you can barely breathe. They check every connection, every seal. One by one, they pat you on the helmet, a final, human gesture of good luck, and then they exit, sealing the hatch behind them, and you are alone. The silence inside the capsule is absolute, broken only by the hiss of the oxygen flowing into your suit and the sound of your own breathing. You are encased in metal, strapped to a bomb at the top of a tower of explosive fuel. You lie there, on your back, staring up at the instrument panel. You are a component, waiting for the machine to be activated. The countdown begins, piped into your helmet. It is the same countdown you have heard 1,000 times in simulations, but this time it is real. Every word, every check, vibrates with a new, terrifying significance. T-minus 60 seconds. You report your status. Ya Kedr, you say, using your call sign, Cedar. Feeling fine, ready for flight. Your voice sounds distant, a stranger's voice in your own ears. The gantry arms pull away from the rocket with a loud, metallic clang that you feel through the hull of the capsule. The rocket is now standing free. It is armed, it is alive. T-minus 10, 9, 8. You feel a strange sense of calm descend over you. The fear is still there, a cold knot in the pit of your stomach, but it is overlaid with a profound sense of destiny. There is nothing left to do. No more training, no more choices. You are simply on the ride. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The rumble begins. A low, deep vibration that grows with astonishing speed into a furious, all-consuming roar. The entire capsule shudders violently. The noise is not a sound, it is a physical assault. It is the sound of a controlled explosion of unimaginable power happening just a few feet beneath you. You are being pushed, shoved, slammed back into your seat by a giant invisible hand. The G-forces build relentlessly, crushing the air from your lungs. You fight to breathe. You fight to remain conscious. You scan the dials through vision that is beginning to blur at the edges. Everything is nominal. The machine is working. The chief designer's creation is holding together. Through the small porthole at your feet, you see the ground recede with astonishing speed. The sky outside your window shifts from the pale blue of morning to a deep, royal blue, then to an impossible, shocking indigo, and finally to a perfect, utter blackness. A velvet black you have never seen before, even at the highest altitudes in your jet. And against that blackness, the stars are not twinkling points of light. They are hard, sharp, brilliant diamonds, burning with a cold, steady fire. The roar of the engines cuts off with a sudden, shocking silence. And just as suddenly, the crushing weight on your chest vanishes. You are weightless. You feel a strange, disorienting lightness. The dust particles inside the capsule, shaken loose by the violence of the launch, are now floating lazily in front of your faceplate, glittering in the faint light of the instrument panel. Your own arms, which a moment ago felt like leaden weights, now float up in front of you. You are free. You have slipped the surly bonds of Earth. You crane your neck to look out the viewport, and you see it. You see the curve of the Earth. The sight is so beautiful, so overwhelming, that it steals the breath from your lungs all over again. It is a vast, gentle arc of brilliant, impossible blue, fringed with the delicate, impossibly thin white veil of the atmosphere. Below you can see the shapes of continents, the glint of sunlight on the vast, dark expanse of the ocean. It is not a map, it is not a globe, it is a living, breathing world, hanging in the silent, black void. The Earth is blue, you whisper into your microphone, your voice filled with a sense of awe so profound it feels like a religious experience. How wonderful. It is amazing. For a few glorious, perfect moments, you are no longer a soldier. You are no longer a symbol of the state. You are simply a human being, the very first of your kind to witness this sight, to see your home world from the outside. You are a child who has climbed to the top of the tallest tree and can finally see his entire village laid out below. The feeling is one of indescribable beauty and a deep, aching, and unexpected love for the fragile, blue world you have just left behind. But the moment is fleeting. The clockwork of the mission continues. You are here to work. You have tasks to perform. You make observations. You test your ability to eat and drink in weightlessness. You make entries in your logbook, but a part of your mind is still reeling from that first magnificent sight. And as the capsule circles the globe, you feel a new sensation, a profound, bone-deep loneliness. You are separated from every other human being by 100 miles of vacuum. You are the sole inhabitant of a new empty continent. The crackle of the ground controller's voice in your headset is a tenuous, fragile link to your entire species. And you know that if that link were to break, if your radio were to fail, you would be more alone than any person in history has ever been. The silence of the isolation chamber was a training exercise. This is the real thing. And it is a silence so vast and so absolute that it threatens to swallow you whole. Your single orbit of the Earth is a whirlwind of planned observations and moments of stolen, private awe. You are a scientist, a test pilot, and a tourist, all at once. You watch continents and oceans glide by beneath you with a silent, majestic grace. You see the shadow of night creeping across the face of the planet, a velvet wave of darkness chasing the brilliant, sunlit terminator. You float in the strange, liberating embrace of weightlessness, a feeling your body can't quite decide if it loves or hates. Every sensation is new, alien, and profound. But the clock is always ticking. The elegant, simple, and unforgiving clockwork mechanism that is your mission plan continues its inexorable advance. After just over an hour, long before you have had time to fully process the sheer, overwhelming reality of your situation, the moment for your return begins. The automated systems chime, a small, electronic beep that signals the end of your brief time as a creature of the cosmos. The retro fire sequence is about to commence. This is the most dangerous part of the flight after the launch itself. A small, solid-fuel rocket motor on the back of your service module must fire at a precise moment, for a precise duration, to slow you down just enough to fall out of orbit. If it fires for too long, your trajectory will be too steep, and you will burn up in the atmosphere. If it fires for too short a duration, you will skip off the atmosphere like a stone on a pond, doomed to a slow death in a decaying, elliptical orbit. If it fails to fire at all, you will be trapped up here until your oxygen runs out. There is no backup system. There is no rescue plan. This is a machine designed with the brutalist optimism of the early space race. It is designed to work perfectly, once. You feel a gentle jolt as the spacecraft orients itself, turning you around so you are flying backwards, facing the direction you came from. You are a passenger, holding on, trusting the machine. The retro rocket fires. It is not the violent, crushing roar of the launch. It is a firm, sustained shove from behind. A brief, reassuring pushback toward the world of gravity and noise. You watch the instruments. The burn is perfect. The duration is exact. The clockwork holds. The chief designer's machine has not failed you. A series of loud metallic clunks reverberates through the hull as the service module, its job now done, is jettisoned with explosive bolts. You are now alone in your small spherical Vostok capsule. You are no longer a spaceship. You are now just a falling object, a man-made meteor, beginning your long, final plunge. The descent begins slowly, gracefully. But as you hit the upper, tenuous layers of the atmosphere, a new sensation begins. A faint, ghostly whisper of air against the hull. The whisper grows into a hiss, then a roar. The capsule begins to shudder, a low-frequency vibration that builds and builds. You look out the small viewport at your feet, and you see the first terrifying sign of re-entry. A faint, pinkish glow begins to form around the edges of the window. The friction of the atmosphere, even this high up, is beginning to superheat the air around you. The pink glow brightens, turning to a fiery, brilliant orange, then to a searing, incandescent white. Flames, real flames, lick at your window. The ablative heat shield, the burnt cork material you first saw in the hangar, is now doing its job. It is burning away, charring, and carrying the immense heat of re-entry away with it. The air inside the capsule fills with the acrid, alarming smell of burning resin. The deceleration is brutal. The G-forces build again, not with the steady push of the launch, but with the violent, shuddering force of a car crash. The capsule is bucking and shaking as it plummets through the thicker air. It is a barely controlled tumble. Strange, groaning, creaking sounds come from the very structure of the capsule. The sounds of metal under immense, torturous stress. You are strapped inside a falling, burning, groaning metal ball, and all you can do is trust that the welds will hold. Through the flames outside your window, you see small, glowing pieces of metal flying away from the capsule. Your heart seizes in your chest. Is the ship breaking apart? You report what you are seeing to ground control, your voice tight with a tension you can no longer hide. Their reply is calm, almost casual. It is expected. Just some wiring covers and insulation burning off. Expected. This terrifying, fiery disintegration was part of the plan all along. The G-forces peak, pinning you to your seat, making it impossible to even lift your head. Then, just as you feel you are about to lose consciousness, the pressure begins to ease. The flames outside subside. The roaring gives way to the loud whistle of wind. You have survived the worst of re-entry. You are through the fire, but the ordeal is not over. The most violent and most secret part of your journey is about to begin. Your altimeter is unwinding rapidly. 10,000 meters, 9,000, 8,000. You brace yourself. At precisely 7,000 meters, there is a deafening, explosive bang that shakes the entire capsule. The main hatch, the one you crawled through just a few hours ago, has been blown clean off. The sudden, violent depressurization makes your ears pop. The roar of the wind fills the capsule. You can see the blue sky, the brown earth rushing up to meet you. A split second later, a second, even more violent event occurs. The rocket motor beneath your seat ignites with a furious, instantaneous kick. You are not eased out of the capsule. You are shot out, fired like a bullet from a gun. The acceleration is savage, a physical blow that snaps your head back. For a brief, disorienting moment, you are a human cannonball, tumbling through the sky, still strapped to your seat. Then another small, explosive charge fires. The harnesses release, and you are kicked away from the seat. You are now falling alone. A man in a bulky orange suit tumbling through the sky. You reach for the cord to deploy your parachute. Your hands, clumsy in the thick gloves, find the handle. You pull. You feel a reassuring, violent tug as the parachute deploys, cracking open above you like the hand of God, arresting your fall with a bone-jarring jolt. And then, silence. A profound, beautiful, and welcome silence. The only sound is the gentle flapping of your parachute canopy in the wind. Below you, you can see your empty Vostok capsule tumbling on its own parachute, falling to the ground a few kilometers away. You see the ejection seat, a piece of discarded machinery, falling separately. The three pieces of the mission are returning to Earth, scattered across the landscape. You look down. You are descending towards a vast, empty expanse of tilled brown earth. A collective farm. In the distance, you can see a small village, a few farm buildings. There is no welcoming committee. There is no honor guard. There is only a field, a farmer, and his bewildered daughter. You land, not gracefully, but in a clumsy, rolling heap. The ground is solid, real, blessedly stationary. You struggle for a few moments with your helmet and your parachute lines. You are tangled, exhausted, and utterly disoriented. You have just fallen from space, and your first act upon returning to your home planet is to wrestle with a pile of nylon ropes in a muddy field. A woman and a young girl are staring at you from a distance, their faces a mixture of fear and utter disbelief. They have just seen a man in a giant orange suit and a white helmet fall out of the sky. You finally manage to get your helmet off. You take a breath of real air. It is cool, and it smells of damp earth and spring. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. Don't be afraid, you say to them, your voice hoarse. I am a Soviet citizen like you. I have come from space. The woman, Anna Takhtarova, looks at you, at your strange suit, at the discarded parachute, and she asks a simple, practical question. Have you come from outer space? You nod. She still looks skeptical. Soon, workers from the farm gather. They are cautious at first, then overjoyed. You are a hero. You are their hero. They help you out of your suit. They offer you bread and milk. There is no official welcome, but this, you think, is better. This is real. An impromptu, heartfelt celebration in a muddy field with your own people. But the state quickly reasserts itself. Helicopters arrive. Serious men in uniforms emerge. You are whisked away. Your impromptu party is over. You are a state asset again. You are taken to a debriefing where you must recount every single detail of your flight, every sensation, every instrument reading, and the lie begins. You are told in no uncertain terms that you landed inside your capsule. The official story is already being written, a story of a perfect, gentle landing. Your terrifying, violent ejection is to be a secret. Your first conversation with Anna Takhtarova in the field will be edited, sanitized, and rewritten for the history books. The aftermath of your flight is a surreal dream. You are flown to Moscow. You are no longer a secret. Your name, your face, is suddenly the most famous in the entire world. You are driven through the streets of the city in an open-topped car. The streets are packed with millions of people, a sea of cheering, weeping, ecstatic faces. They are throwing flowers. They are waving flags. They are chanting your name. You stand in the car and wave, a smile fixed on your face. You are a hero of the Soviet Union. You are the embodiment of their greatest triumph. But you feel a strange sense of detachment. Just yesterday, you were utterly alone, a tiny speck in the silent void. Today you are crushed by the adoration of millions. Both experiences feel equally unreal. You stand atop Lenin's mausoleum in Red Square, next to the leaders of the Soviet Union. You give a short, prepared speech, your words broadcast to the entire world. But a part of you is still in that capsule, looking down at the silent, beautiful blue curve of the Earth. That is the true secret you must keep. Not the secret of the ejection seat or the failures on the launch pad. The true secret is that up there, in the perfect, apolitical silence of space, you did not feel like a Soviet citizen. You did not feel like a hero of the people. You felt the immense, beautiful, and humbling truth of your own existence. You were just a man. A tiny, fragile, impossibly lucky man who was given the chance, for one brief, shining hour, to see the world as it truly is. A beautiful, fragile, and irreplaceable home. And you know with a certainty that settles deep in your bones that you will spend the rest of your life on the ground, trying to find your way back to that feeling. Afterglow of Creation, finding the remnants of the Big Bang in everything. Now, we are going on the ultimate journey back in time. We're not going back a century or a millennium or even a billion years. We're going back to the very beginning, to a moment of unimaginable creation, to the single instant from which everything we know, everything we are, and everything we can ever hope to be emerged. We're going to be talking about the Big Bang, but this isn't a story of complex physics or impenetrable equations. This is a story about its ghosts. We are going on a treasure hunt to find the faint, subtle, and beautiful remnants of that first fiery moment, hidden all around us and even inside of us. We're going to learn how to see the echo of creation in the most mundane and unexpected places. Imagine you are in a room. It is a room with no walls, no ceiling, no floor. It is a room that contains everything. Every star, every galaxy, every speck of dust in the entire universe is in this room with you. But you cannot see them. You cannot see anything. The room is not dark, it is the opposite of dark. It is filled with a light of such impossible incandescent brilliance that it is perfectly, uniformly opaque. It is a thick, searing, primordial fog of energy and matter, crushed together under unimaginable pressure and temperature. There are no atoms here, not as we know them. The universe is too hot. Electrons are ripped away from protons, unable to settle into stable orbits. It is a chaotic, buzzing soup of elementary particles and high-energy photons. This is the universe, just a few 100,000 years after the Big Bang. And the light of creation, the afterglow of that first moment, is trapped. A photon of light, a particle of pure energy, cannot travel more than a few nanometers before it slams into a free electron, is absorbed, and sent careening off in a random new direction. The entire universe is a cosmic pinball machine, and the light is locked in a frantic, endless game. The cosmos is full of light, but it is a light that cannot escape. It is a star that has no outside. The universe is opaque, but the universe has been expanding since the very first moment, and as it expands, it cools. Slowly, patiently, relentlessly, the temperature drops. And then, at a moment of profound cosmic significance, roughly 380,000 years after the beginning of time, the universe reaches a critical threshold. The temperature drops to about 3,000 degrees Kelvin. At this temperature, the universe is finally cool enough for the frantic dance to end. The free electrons, which have been careening through the cosmic soup for eons, finally have slowed down enough to be captured by the protons. Stable, neutral atoms of hydrogen and helium can now form for the first time. This event is called recombination, and it changes everything. Suddenly, the photons of light, which had been trapped in the endless pinball game, find that the obstacles have vanished. The free electrons that were constantly blocking their path are now safely locked away inside neutral atoms. For the very first time, the universe becomes transparent. And so, at that moment, all across the cosmos, the trapped light of creation is finally set free. The primordial fog clears. The light from that first fiery epoch is released, and it begins to travel, unimpeded, in every direction across the newly transparent universe. It is a flash of ancient golden white light, an echo of the universe's fiery birth, now free to journey through space and time forever. This is the first ghost of the Big Bang we are hunting for, this ancient primordial light. It is called the Cosmic Microwave Background, or CMB, and it is, without a doubt, the most important and profound fossil in the entire universe. Now let's leave our imaginary featureless room. Let's come back to the present day, back to you, sitting in your own room in the quiet of the night. You might be wondering, if this great flash of light was released, why don't we see it? Why isn't the night sky a brilliant, golden white? The answer is because the universe has not stopped expanding. For the past 13.8 billion years, since that light was first released, the fabric of space itself has been stretching. And as it stretches the waves of light that are traveling through it. The ancient light of the CMB began its journey as high-energy, short-wavelength, visible light, the color of a dull star. But over the immense journey of 13.8 billion years, its wavelength has been stretched and stretched and stretched again by the expansion of the universe. It has been stretched all the way out of the visible spectrum, past red, past infrared, and into the microwave portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. So we can't see it with our eyes, but it is there. It is everywhere. Right now, the room you are in is filled with this ancient light. The photons of the cosmic microwave background are streaming through your body, through the walls of your house, through the very planet itself, from every direction at all times. You are, at this very moment, bathing in the literal afterglow of creation. You just don't have the eyes to see it, but we have built eyes that can. In the 1960s, two young American radio astronomers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, were working with a large, strange-looking, horn-shaped antenna at Bell Labs in New Jersey. They were trying to make precise measurements of radio signals from the Milky Way. But they had a problem. A persistent, annoying, low-level hiss in their receiver. It was a noise that wouldn't go away. It came from every direction they pointed the antenna. It was there day and night, summer and winter. They checked everything. They rewired their systems. They recalibrated their instruments. They even, in a now famous episode, climbed into the antenna and scraped out what they described as a white dielectric material, pigeon droppings, thinking that might be the source of the noise. But the hiss remained. It was a faint, steady thermal noise, corresponding to a temperature of about 3 degrees above absolute zero. And they had no idea what it was. At the same time, just a few miles away at Princeton University, a team of physicists, led by Robert Dicke, had independently theorized that this ancient light from the Big Bang should exist. They had calculated that it would have cooled to a temperature of just a few degrees above absolute zero, and that it should be detectable as a faint microwave hiss coming from all directions. They were, at that very moment, in the process of building a receiver to try and find it. They were about to be scooped by a pair of astronomers who were just trying to get rid of some pigeon poop. When Penzias and Wilson finally heard about the work being done at Princeton, the pieces clicked into place. Their annoying, persistent, inexplicable noise was not a flaw in their equipment. It was not interference from New York City. It was the oldest, most distant, and most profound signal ever detected by humanity. It was the echo of the Big Bang. They had stumbled, completely by accident, upon the afterglow of creation itself. They would go on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics for their discovery. And the best part of this story, a small percentage of the static you see on an old, untuned analog television set, that familiar black and white snow, is the cosmic microwave background. When you looked at that screen, you were not just seeing random noise. You were seeing a faint, visual representation of the oldest light in the universe. You were seeing the ghost of the Big Bang, captured by a simple antenna on your roof. You were looking at a true piece of cosmic history, nestled between reruns of old sitcoms. The cosmic microwave background is the most spectacular and direct ghost of the Big Bang, a faint, ever-present hum that fills the entire universe. It is a baby picture of the cosmos, a snapshot of the moment it first became transparent. But it is not the only remnant. The echo of that first fiery moment is not just in the light around us, it is in the very substance of the universe itself. It is in the atoms that make up the stars, the planets, the galaxies, and even you. To find this second ghost, we must go back even further in time. Not to the moment the universe became transparent, 380,000 years after the Big Bang, but to the first few minutes of its existence. We are journeying to a time known as the era of Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Let's return to our imaginary featureless room, but this time it is even smaller, even hotter, and even denser. The time is approximately 1 second after the Big Bang. The universe is a seething, chaotic inferno of unimaginable energy. The fundamental forces of nature have only just separated from each other. The cosmos is a frantic soup of the most basic particles: quarks, gluons, electrons, positrons, neutrinos, and photons. The temperature is over 1 trillion degrees. It is too hot for even protons and neutrons to exist in a stable form. They are being constantly created and destroyed in a furious, energetic dance. The universe is a place of pure, raw, undifferentiated potential. But as always, the universe is expanding and cooling, and it is doing so at an astonishing rate. By the time the universe is about 1 minute old, the temperature has dropped to a mere billion degrees. This is a critical threshold. It is now cool enough for protons and neutrons to condense out of the primordial soup and exist as stable particles. You now have the fundamental building blocks of atomic nuclei. And for a brief, critical window of time, from about the 1st minute to the 20th minute of the universe's life, the entire cosmos becomes a nuclear furnace. This is Big Bang nucleosynthesis. The universe is still incredibly hot and dense, like the core of a star. Protons and neutrons, which had been flying around freely, are now close enough and have slowed down enough to begin to fuse together. A proton can fuse with a neutron to form deuterium, an isotope of hydrogen. 2 deuterium nuclei can slam together to form helium-3, and 2 helium-3 nuclei can fuse to create helium-4, the stable common form of helium, releasing 2 protons in the process. This process, this frantic, universe-wide alchemy, happens with breathtaking speed. In the space of about 20 minutes, almost all of the free neutrons in the universe are cooked into helium nuclei. Why did it stop? Because after about 20 minutes, the universe had expanded and cooled to a point where it was no longer hot and dense enough to sustain fusion. The cosmic furnace turned off. The window of opportunity for creating new elements slammed shut. So, when the smoke cleared, what was the universe made of? The theory of the Big Bang makes a very specific, very bold, and very testable prediction. It predicts that after this initial period of nucleosynthesis, the ordinary matter in the universe should have a very specific composition. About 75% hydrogen nuclei, which are just single protons, about 25% helium-4 nuclei, and tiny trace amounts of deuterium, helium-3, and lithium. And that's it. The Big Bang model predicts that the early universe should have contained no carbon, no oxygen, no iron, no silicon. All the heavier elements that make up our world, our bodies, the rocks beneath our feet, were not created in the Big Bang. They had to be forged much, much later in the hearts of dying stars. So, here we have our second ghost, the predicted abundance of the primordial elements. It is a chemical fingerprint left behind by the first few minutes of creation. And the beauty of this ghost is that we can go out and look for it. How do you do that? How do you measure the composition of the early universe? You look for places that haven't been contaminated by the products of stellar evolution. You find ancient, pristine clouds of gas floating in the empty spaces between galaxies. These are clouds that have been sitting there undisturbed for billions of years. They are cosmic fossils, preserving the chemical signature of the universe as it was shortly after the Big Bang. Astronomers can point their powerful telescopes at these distant gas clouds. By analyzing the light from even more distant quasars that passes through these clouds, they can perform a cosmic chemical analysis. The specific way the light is absorbed by the gas tells them exactly what elements are present and in what quantities. And what do they find? They find that these ancient, pristine clouds are composed of about 75% hydrogen and about 25% helium, with tiny trace amounts of deuterium and lithium. Take a moment to let that sink in. A theory conceived by physicists with chalkboards and equations, a theory about the state of the entire universe when it was only a few minutes old, makes a precise quantitative prediction. And then astronomers using telescopes and spectrographs go out and measure the real universe, and the numbers match. They match with incredible, breathtaking precision. This is one of the most powerful and beautiful confirmations in all of science. It is the second great pillar of evidence for the Big Bang. The hiss of the cosmic microwave background is the echo of the light of creation. The precise ratio of hydrogen to helium in the universe is the echo of the fire of creation. So where do you find this ghost in your own life? You find it, strangely enough, in a glass of water. The water molecule, H2O, is made of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. The oxygen atom was created much later, in the heart of a star that died long before our sun was born. But the hydrogen atoms, the two H's in your H2O, are primordial. Those hydrogen atoms, which are just single protons, were formed in the first second of the universe's existence. They survived the fiery crucible of Big Bang nucleosynthesis without being fused into helium. They floated through the cosmos for billions of years in great clouds of gas. They were drawn into the nebula that formed our solar system. They became part of the planet Earth, and now they are in the glass of water you are holding. When you take a sip of water, you are drinking, quite literally, the stuff of the Big Bang. You are consuming atoms that are 13.8 billion years old. The vast majority of the atoms that make up your own body are these ancient hydrogen atoms. You are, in a very real and physical sense, a collection of primordial relics, a walking, talking, thinking fossil from the dawn of time. And what about the helium? The 25% of the universe that was cooked in the first few minutes? That helium is all around us as well. The sun is busy making more of it in its core, but the vast majority of the helium in the cosmos is primordial. You find this ghost every time you see a child holding a floating balloon at a birthday party. The helium that gives that balloon its lift, that makes it strain against its string, was forged in the first 3 minutes of the universe. It is a tiny, captured sample of the fire of creation being used to entertain a child at a party. There is a deep, poetic, and beautiful irony in that. A substance born in a moment of unimaginable cosmic violence now brings simple, quiet joy. So, the next time you feel small or insignificant, remember the story written in the very atoms of your being. You are made of stardust, yes, but you are also made of something even older. You are made of Big Bang dust. The hydrogen that makes up the water in your cells, that forms the backbone of your DNA, is the oldest matter in the universe. It is a direct, unbroken thread connecting you back to the very first moments of creation. You are not just living in the universe is living in you. The ancient light of the CMB and the primordial ratio of hydrogen to helium are the two most famous ghosts of the Big Bang. They are the great foundational pillars that support our entire understanding of cosmic origins. But there is a third ghost, a more subtle, more ethereal, and perhaps more awe-inspiring one. This is the ghost that is written not in light or in atoms, but in the very architecture of the universe itself. To find this ghost, we must look at the universe on the largest possible scales. We must zoom out from our planet, past our sun, beyond our galaxy, until the Milky Way itself is just a single, insignificant point of light among billions of others. We are looking at the cosmic web. When we map the positions of millions of galaxies in the universe, we find that they are not distributed randomly, like seeds scattered from a bag. They are arranged in a magnificent, intricate, and beautiful pattern, a vast, interconnected web of cosmic structure. There are long, thin filaments of galaxies stretching for hundreds of millions of light years, great glowing threads of matter weaving through the void. There are dense, crowded superclusters, great nodes where these filaments intersect, vast, sprawling cities of thousands of galaxies. And in between, there are the great voids, immense, almost empty bubbles of darkness, some of them a billion light years across, where very few galaxies reside. The universe, on its grandest scale, looks like a sponge, or a piece of cosmic coral, or the interconnected neurons of a giant brain. It is beautiful, it is structured, and the existence of this structure, this cosmic web, is a profound mystery. Why should the universe be organized this way? Why isn't it uniform? After all, the Big Bang model suggests that the early universe was incredibly smooth and homogeneous. The cosmic microwave background radiation is almost perfectly uniform in every direction we look. So, if the universe started out smooth, where did this immense, lumpy structure come from? The answer, we believe, is the third great ghost of the Big Bang. The seeds of this cosmic web, the blueprints for every galaxy, every cluster, and every void, were planted in the very first moments of creation. They are the echo of the quantum world, magnified to a cosmic scale. Let's go back one last time to our imaginary room. But this time we are going back to a time before atoms, before protons, before even the forces of nature had separated. We are going back to the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. A time so early it almost defies imagination. The universe is a seething, energetic quantum foam. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, the universe at this scale is not smooth and quiet. It is a place of inherent uncertainty and spontaneous fluctuation. Particles and energy can pop in and out of existence for fleeting moments. The energy density of the quantum vacuum is not constant, it flickers. It is a seething, bubbling, unpredictable foam. For the most part, these quantum fluctuations are tiny, microscopic events that average out to nothing. But the Big Bang theory in its modern form includes an idea called inflation. It posits that in the first tiny fraction of a second of its existence, the universe underwent a period of astonishing hyper-accelerated expansion. It grew from a size smaller proton to the size of a grapefruit, almost instantaneously. And what did this incredible violent expansion do? It took those tiny microscopic quantum fluctuations, those little flickers in the energy of the primordial vacuum, and it stretched them. It magnified them to astronomical proportions. A quantum flicker that was once smaller than an atom was suddenly stretched to be larger than a galaxy. The inflationary epoch was a cosmic microscope, taking the inherent fuzziness of the quantum world and blowing it up to a cosmic scale. So, when inflation ended, the universe was no longer perfectly smooth. It was imprinted with these tiny residual variations in density. Some regions were, by pure quantum chance, infinitesimally denser than others. These tiny, primordial density fluctuations are the seeds, they are the ghost. And then, another mysterious player entered the stage, dark matter. We cannot see dark matter. It does not interact with light, but we know it is there. We can feel its gravitational influence holding galaxies together. And we know from our cosmological models that it makes up about 27% of the total matter and energy content of the universe. Ordinary matter, the stuff we are made of, is only about 5%. This mysterious, invisible dark matter was also present in the early universe. And because it does not interact with light or pressure, it could begin to collapse much earlier than ordinary matter. Gravity, the patient sculptor, began its work. The dark matter started to clump together in the regions that were already slightly denser, thanks to those quantum fluctuations. For millions of years, the dark matter slowly fell into these primordial gravitational wells, forming vast, invisible halos. It was creating a cosmic scaffolding. Then, 380,000 years after the Big Bang, when the universe finally became transparent, ordinary matter, the hydrogen and helium gas, was finally free to move. And where did it go? It was pulled by gravity into the immense, pre-existing halos of dark matter. The ordinary matter fell onto the invisible scaffolding that had been quietly assembling in the darkness for eons. And that is the origin of the cosmic web. The long, glowing filaments of galaxies are simply the places where ordinary matter has collected along the great, invisible filaments of dark matter. The dense superclusters are the great intersections of this dark matter web, where the gravitational wells were deepest, and the great voids are the empty spaces in between, the places that started out by pure quantum chance as slightly less dense, and from which all the matter has been slowly draining away for billions of years. So when you look at a map of the large-scale structure of the universe, you are not just looking at a pretty pattern. You are looking at a direct, physical manifestation of the laws of quantum mechanics. You are seeing the ghost of a quantum flicker that happened in the first instant of time, magnified by inflation and then illuminated by galaxies. The largest structures in the entire universe owe their existence to the smallest, most fleeting, most uncertain processes imaginable. Where can you find a trace of this magnificent architectural ghost in your own life? You can't hold it, you can't drink it, but you are living inside of it. You find it in the simple fact that you exist. The existence of our Milky Way galaxy, the existence of our sun, the existence of our planet, all of it is a direct consequence of the fact that the universe is not perfectly uniform. If the early universe had been perfectly smooth, there would have been no density fluctuations. There would have been no seeds for gravity to work with. There would have been no dark matter halos, no galaxies, no stars, no planets, and no people. The universe would be a cold, dark, and utterly boring place, filled with a thin, uniform, and lifeless soup of hydrogen and helium gas. The fact that you are here, sitting in a chair, reading these words is because in the first fraction of a second of time, a random quantum fluctuation made the tiny patch of space that would one day become our galaxy just a little bit denser than the space around it. Your existence is a ghost. You are a fossil of a quantum mechanical accident, a happy consequence of the beautiful, messy, and imperfect nature of reality at its most fundamental level. You are a child of chaos, a creature born from a statistical fluctuation in the primordial nothingness. And there is one final ghost, the most mysterious of them all. We have talked about the expansion of the universe. It is the driving force behind the CMB's red shift, the reason for the cooling that allowed atoms to form. For a long time, we assumed this expansion was slowing down, that the mutual gravitational attraction of all the matter in the universe would be acting as a brake. But in the late 1990s, astronomers studying distant supernovae made a shocking discovery. The expansion of the universe is not slowing down. It is accelerating. Something is pushing the universe apart. Something is acting as a kind of anti-gravity, stretching the fabric of space itself at an ever-increasing rate. We do not know what it is. We call it dark energy, and it is the dominant force in the cosmos, making up nearly 70% of the universe's total energy budget. This mysterious dark energy is also, we believe, a remnant of the Big Bang. It may be a form of vacuum energy, the intrinsic baseline energy of empty space itself. It is a ghost that we cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot explain. But we can feel its effects on the grandest of scales. It is the force that will determine the ultimate fate of our universe, likely leading to a cold, dark, empty future where all the galaxies have been pushed so far apart that they can no longer see each other. It is the final great mystery, the ghost in the machine of the cosmos itself. And like all the others, its story begins in that first, single, explosive moment of creation. The Big Bang did not just create matter and light. It created the rules, it created the stage, and it created the ghosts that would haunt that stage forever. You stand up from your desk, the soft glow of the screen illuminating a room that has grown dark with the advancing night. You've journeyed back to the very beginning, chasing the echoes of creation through light, through atoms, and through the grand, invisible architecture of the cosmos itself. You found the ghosts of the Big Bang in a glass of water, in a child's balloon, and in the simple fact of your own existence. The evidence is overwhelming, beautiful, and woven into the very fabric of reality. But as you look out your window at the quiet, familiar neighborhood street, a new question begins to form in your mind, a more human question. The science is elegant, the story is grand, but what does it all mean? What does it mean to be a creature made of ancient hydrogen, living inside a fossilized quantum fluctuation, bathing in the afterglow of a creation event you can barely comprehend? Does this cosmic perspective change anything about our small, fleeting, and often chaotic lives? You decide to go for a walk. The night air is cool and still. The street lights cast pools of orange light on the empty pavement. Above, between the glare of the city, a few hardy stars are visible. You look up at them, and you think about the journey their light has taken to reach your eyes. But tonight, you're thinking about a different journey. The journey of the atoms that make up the pavement beneath your feet, the tree on the corner, your own hand. Every carbon atom in the bark of that tree, every oxygen atom you just drew into your lungs, every bit of iron in the blood coursing through your veins, none of it was made in the Big Bang. The Big Bang was a simple, clean cook, producing only the lightest, most basic ingredients. To get the heavier elements necessary for life and for planets, the universe had to perform a second, much longer and much more violent act of creation. It had to build stars. For hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang, the universe was dark. There were no stars to light up the vast, expanding clouds of hydrogen and helium. But gravity, the patient, relentless sculptor, was at work. It pulled these primordial gases together into great collapsing knots of matter. The pressure and temperature at the centers of these knots grew until a new fire was lit, the fire of stellar fusion. The first stars were born. These first-generation stars were not like our sun. They were monsters. Made of pure hydrogen and helium, they were hundreds of times more massive and millions of times brighter. And because they were so massive, they burned through their fuel with incredible speed. They lived fast and died young. After only a few million years, they exhausted their fuel and collapsed under their own immense gravity, triggering the most powerful explosions the universe has to offer, supernovae. In these cataclysmic explosions, for a few brilliant, violent moments, temperatures and pressures were reached that were far beyond anything the Big Bang had produced after its first few minutes. It was in these stellar death throes that the heavier elements were forged. The hydrogen and helium were cooked into carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, silicon, and iron. All the ingredients for a more interesting, more complex universe. And then the explosion cast these new, heavy elements out into the cosmos, seeding the surrounding gas clouds. The next generation of stars born from these enriched clouds would have planets made of rock and metal. They would have the raw materials for water, for atmospheres, for life. The star that would eventually become our sun was a third-generation star, formed from a cloud that had been seeded by countless supernovae over billions of years. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a dying star and flung across the galaxy in a titanic explosion. The calcium in your bones, the carbon in your DNA, the oxygen you breathe, you are made of stardust. You are a walking, talking, thinking collection of stellar ashes. You pause your walk and look at your hand under the orange glow of a streetlight. You see a collection of fingers, skin, knuckles. But tonight, you see something more. You see a confluence of two of the grandest stories in the cosmos. The hydrogen atoms that make up the water in your hand are primordial, 13.8 billion years old, a direct remnant of the Big Bang's initial creation. The heavier carbon and oxygen atoms that form the complex molecules of your cells are much younger, perhaps only 5 or 6 billion years old, forged in the heart of a long-dead star and recycled to form our solar system. Your own body is a meeting place of ghosts. You are a bridge between the two great creative acts of the universe, the initial, clean fire of the Big Bang and the long, slow, messy, violent fire of the stars. To be human is to be made of both the oldest matter in the universe and the recycled debris of dead suns. There is a poetry in this that is so deep it is almost heartbreaking. This perspective changes things. The small, everyday frustrations and anxieties of your life begin to seem different. The argument you had at work, the bill you forgot to pay, the worry about the future, these things don't vanish, but their scale is altered. You are a temporary arrangement of ancient matter, a fleeting moment of consciousness on a small rocky planet, orbiting a middle-aged star in a quiet corner of a vast galaxy. And this realization is not belittling. It is liberating. It connects you to everything. The Big Bang wasn't something that happened over there billions of years ago. It is here. Now, the expansion of the universe is not an abstract concept. It is happening in the space between you and the streetlight. The ancient light of the CMB is not a distant signal. It is streaming through the air you are breathing. The primordial hydrogen is not a historical artifact. It is the substance of your own body. You feel a profound sense of belonging. You are not just a visitor in this universe. You are a part of it. You are as fundamental to its story as the stars and the galaxies. You are a way for the cosmos to know itself. The universe grew from a state of simple, hot, undifferentiated energy into a state of immense complexity that includes galaxies, stars, planets, and a strange bipedal ape who can walk down a quiet suburban street at night and ponder his own origins. That entire unbroken chain of causality, stretching back 13.8 billion years, has led to this moment, to you. The silence of the night seems different now, too. It is not an empty silence. It is a silence full of potential, full of history. It is the silence of the vast, dark spaces between the stars where the raw materials for future worlds are waiting. It is the silence of the primordial hydrogen, quietly and patiently doing its job, forming the backbone of everything. You turn and begin to walk home. A profound sense of peace settles over you. The universe is not a cold, random, meaningless place. It is a story, a single, unified, and magnificent narrative that is still unfolding. And you are not just a reader of that story. You are a character in it. You are a verse in the great cosmic poem. You get back to your house, you turn on the light, you pour yourself a glass of water, you look at the clear liquid in the glass and you see it for what it is, a collection of primordial hydrogen atoms, relics from the dawn of time, bonded to oxygen atoms forged in a stellar furnace. You are about to drink the history of the universe, and as you drift off to sleep later that night, your head resting on your pillow, you feel the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your own chest. You are breathing. You are taking in the oxygen gifted to you by a long-dead star, and you are using it to power a body made of the oldest substance in the cosmos. Your every breath is an act of cosmic recycling. Your every heartbeat is a rhythm set by the fundamental laws that were laid down in the first instant of time. You are a ghost of the Big Bang, and you are dreaming. And so our journey ends, not in a distant galaxy or a fiery stellar nebula, but right here, in the quiet of our own rooms, in the very substance of our own bodies. The Big Bang is not a remote abstract event. It is a story that is still being told, all around us and inside of us. Its echoes are in the static between radio stations, in the atoms of the water we drink, in the grand, silent architecture of the night sky. To understand this is to understand our place in the cosmos. We are not separate from the universe, looking in from the outside. We are made of it. We are a part of its grand, unfolding narrative. We are stardust and primordial hydrogen, animated for a brief, precious moment, and given the astonishing gift of being able to look back and understand our own origins. What is time? A journey from the cosmic scale to the human perception. Now we are embarking on a journey into the heart of the most familiar, and yet the most mysterious dimension of them all. We are not traveling to a place, but through a medium, a force, a river, a prison, a concept so fundamental to our existence that we rarely stop to question it. We are going to be talking about time. We will explore the strange, elastic, and deeply personal way we feel it pass, and then we will venture into the cold, beautiful, and utterly bizarre world of physics, where time itself seems to bend, break, and behave in ways that defy our intuition. This is a story about why your memories only run in one direction, why an astronaut can age slower than his twin, and how the entire history of the universe might already be written. Imagine you are sitting in a quiet room. The day is over. The only light comes from a single, soft lamp in the corner. You are not looking at a screen. You are not reading a book. You are simply being. And in this quiet moment, you become aware of something you usually take for granted. You feel time passing. It does not feel like a number on a clock. It feels like a presence. A slow, steady, and invisible river flowing through the room, carrying you with it. You can feel its current. You can dip your hand into its waters and pull out a memory. Think of one, a memory from your childhood. A summer afternoon, perhaps. The feeling of warm sun on your skin, the smell of freshly cut grass, the sound of a distant lawnmower. The memory is vivid. It feels real. But it is not here. It is upstream, in the past. You can look back at it, you can remember it, but you can never return to it. The river only flows in one direction. Now, think of tomorrow, an appointment you have, a task you need to complete, a conversation you are anticipating. You can't see it clearly. The details are fuzzy, indistinct. It is downstream, in the future. The river is carrying you towards it, but the landscape is shrouded in fog. You can anticipate it, you can worry about it, you can hope for it, but you are not there yet. And then there is now. This very moment. The feeling of the chair beneath you, the temperature of the air on your skin, the sound of my voice in your ears. This is the present, the thin, elusive, and constantly moving boundary between the vast ocean of what has been and the endless foggy expanse of what is yet to be. This moment, right now, is the only reality you ever truly experience, and yet it is gone before you can even properly grasp it. This is our human experience of time. It is a river. It flows. The past is fixed and immutable, a landscape we have already passed. The future is open and uncertain, and the present is a canoe carrying us inexorably forward. This intuition is buried so deep in our consciousness that we don't even recognize it as an intuition at all. It simply feels like the truth. It feels like the fundamental nature of reality. But what if it isn't? What if our deepest, most fundamental experience of the world is a profound and persistent illusion? To explore this, we must leave the quiet, lamplit room of our own perception and enter the cold, strange, and beautiful world of physics. We must travel to the office of a young patent clerk in Bern, Switzerland in the year 1905. A man named Albert Einstein, Einstein, in his revolutionary theory of special relativity, did something that shattered our classical understanding of the world. He demonstrated that space and time are not separate, independent entities. They are inextricably linked. They are two parts of a single, unified, four-dimensional fabric, space-time. This is a difficult concept to visualize. We are creatures of three spatial dimensions. We can move up and down, left and right, forward and back. But Einstein told us there is a fourth dimension, time, and we are always moving through it. This concept led to a revolutionary and deeply unsettling view of the universe, a view that physicists still grapple with today. It is called the block universe theory. Imagine time is not a river at all. Imagine it is a book, a great cosmic novel that contains the entire history of the universe, from the first moment of the Big Bang to the last, dying glimmer of the final star. And in this book, every page is already written. The page describing the dinosaurs roaming the earth is there. The page describing your birth is there. The page describing this very moment as you listen to my voice is there. And the page describing your last moment, and the last moment of the sun, and the final cold end of the universe itself. It is all there, already written, already printed, already bound together in the single, vast volume of reality. In this view, the past, the present, and the future are not fundamentally different. They all exist simultaneously with equal reality, laid out as different points on the time dimension, just as different locations in space all exist simultaneously. The city of ancient Rome is not gone. It simply exists at a different coordinate in space-time than the chair you are sitting in now. Your future self is not a vague possibility. It is a real entity, existing at a future coordinate, just as a person in another country is a real entity existing at a different spatial coordinate. So why then does time feel like it is flowing? Why do we experience this relentless one-way journey from the past to the future? The block universe theory suggests that our consciousness, our awareness, acts like a kind of spotlight or a reading lamp, moving slowly through the pages of this already written book. We are only ever aware of the single page, the single moment, that our consciousness is currently illuminating. As our spotlight moves forward, new pages, new moments, come into the light of our awareness, and we call this the present. The pages we have just passed are now in the dark, but they are still there, perfectly preserved, and we call them the past, accessible only through the faint, reflected light of memory. And the pages yet to come are also in the dark, waiting for our spotlight to reach them, and we call them the future. The feeling of flow, the sense of the river, is an illusion created by the movement of our perception through a static, unchanging, four-dimensional block of space-time. This idea is profoundly disturbing to our sense of self. It seems to rob us of our free will. If the future is already written, what is the point of making choices? If every action you will ever take is already a printed word on a page, what does it mean to choose? Physicists and philosophers argue about this endlessly. Some suggest that while the future may be written, we are still the ones who write it. Our choices are the ink, even if the page is already there. Others suggest that free will is simply an illusion, a powerful and necessary one for our survival, but an illusion nonetheless. We do not have the answer. But the theory itself forces us to confront the deep chasm between how we feel the world works and how the laws of physics suggest it might work. You are lying in your bed, feeling the gentle passage of the night. You feel the minutes ticking by, carrying you towards sleep, towards tomorrow. But according to this strange, beautiful, and terrifying idea, the you of tomorrow morning already exists. The you of last year already exists. Every version of you, at every moment you have ever lived or ever will live, is a permanent fixture in the great silent four-dimensional block of reality. You are not a traveler on a river. You are a sculpture, a long, intricate four-dimensional sculpture, and your consciousness is just a tiny spark, slowly tracing its shape from one end to the other. This is the first great mystery of time, the mystery of its apparent flow. But it immediately leads to a second, even deeper question. If the past and the future are both equally real, just different locations in space-time, why is there such a profound difference between them in our minds? Why can we remember the past, but we cannot remember the future? Why does our psychological arrow of time, our sense of cause and effect, point in only one direction? Why does the book of reality only seem to make sense when we read it from front to back? To answer that, we must look for another ghost of the Big Bang. We must look for the universe's own, built-in, one-way street. We must look for the law of entropy. We are left with a profound and unsettling disconnect. The physics of Einstein's block universe suggests that the past, present, and future are all equally real, permanent fixtures in a four-dimensional space-time. Yet our conscious experience, our deepest intuition, tells us a completely different story. It tells us of a flowing river, of a fixed past we can remember, and an open future we cannot. Why this discrepancy? Why does the book of reality seem to have a preferred reading direction? To understand this, we must introduce one of the most fundamental and most misunderstood concepts in all of physics. It is the second law of thermodynamics, and it is the law that gives time its arrow. The second law is often described simply as the idea that things fall apart, that order tends to decay into disorder, that systems left to their own devices will always move from a state of low entropy to a state of high entropy. Entropy is, in essence, a measure of disorder, randomness, or messiness. Imagine you have a box of gas molecules. In a low entropy state, all the gas molecules might be neatly gathered in one corner of the box. This is a highly ordered, specific, and improbable arrangement. If you were to open the box, you know what would happen. The molecules would not remain politely in their corner. They would quickly and chaotically expand to fill the entire volume of the box, bouncing off each other and the walls until they are distributed more or less randomly. This is a high entropy state. It is disordered, generic, and statistically overwhelmingly probable. The second law tells us that this process is a one-way street. You will never see the randomly distributed gas molecules spontaneously decide to gather themselves back into one corner. The universe simply doesn't work that way. An egg, once scrambled, will not unscramble itself. A drop of ink, once dispersed in a glass of water, will not gather itself back into a perfect, tiny sphere. A building, left to the elements for 1,000 years, will crumble into dust. A pile of dust will not spontaneously assemble itself into a building. This, physicists believe, is the key to our psychological arrow of time. Our sense of past and future is directly tied to this relentless, universal increase in entropy. The direction of time's flow, for us, is the direction of increasing disorder. We can remember the past because the past was a more ordered, lower entropy state. The memory of your childhood breakfast is a memory of a time when the atoms in your egg were in the highly ordered, low entropy state of unscrambled. The process of scrambling it, an increase in entropy, is what defines its journey from past to present. The unscrambled state is the cause, and the scrambled state is the effect. We cannot remember the future because the future is, by definition, a state of even higher entropy, of even greater disorder than the present. Our brains are, in essence, entropy-detecting machines. We are hardwired to perceive the one-way flow from order to chaos as the flow of time itself. So, when you remember breaking a glass, you are remembering a transition from a low entropy state, a whole, ordered glass, to a high entropy state, a collection of disordered, shattered pieces. You will never have a memory of the pieces spontaneously leaping off the floor and reassembling themselves into a whole glass, because that would be a violation of the second law. That direction is forbidden. And so our minds interpret that forbidden direction as the future. This seems like a tidy and satisfying explanation. Our experience of time is just a reflection of the universe's steady march towards messiness. But it raises a much, much deeper question. A question that takes us right back to the beginning of everything. If the universe is always moving towards a state of higher entropy, if things are always getting more disordered, then that must mean that the universe, in the past, was in an even more ordered state. And if you follow that logic all the way back, it implies that the universe must have begun in a state of absolutely perfect, mind-bogglingly low entropy. And this is precisely what the Big Bang model tells us. The early universe was not just hot and dense, it was also a state of almost perfect order. The energy and matter were distributed with an incredible, almost supernatural smoothness and uniformity. This highly ordered, low-entropy initial state is the ultimate unscrambled egg. It is the ultimate cause from which every subsequent, more disordered state has unfolded. The Big Bang did not just set the universe in motion, it wound it up. It created a universe with a tremendous capacity for increasing its disorder. And the entire 13.8 billion year history of the cosmos, from the formation of the first stars to you sitting in your room right now, has been the story of the universe slowly, majestically, and irreversibly unwinding. The birth of stars and galaxies, while it might seem like the creation of order, is actually a process that vastly increases the total entropy of the universe by converting the ordered potential energy of gas clouds into the disordered, chaotic radiation of starlight. The process of life itself, the building of complex organisms like you and me, is a beautiful, temporary, and localized pocket of order. But we only achieve this order by consuming energy, like food, and radiating waste heat into our environment, thereby increasing the total entropy of the universe around us. We are little eddies of order in a great river flowing towards chaos. So, the arrow of time, the fact that you can remember yesterday but not tomorrow, is a direct consequence of the initial conditions of the universe. It is another ghost of the Big Bang. You experience time as a one-way street because the universe was born in a state of almost impossible order. But this, as you might have guessed, only pushes the mystery one level deeper. Why was the early universe in such a low entropy state? Why did the book of reality start with the neatest, most organized page imaginable? We do not have a good answer to this question. It is one of the deepest and most profound mysteries in all of physics. Some physicists speculate that our universe might be just one bubble in a much larger multiverse, and that we simply happen to live in a bubble that had the right improbable starting conditions for time as we know it to exist. Other universes might be born into a state of high entropy, and in such universes there would be no arrow of time, no cause and effect, no structure, no life, and no one to ask the question. We are, in this view, the beneficiaries of an extraordinary stroke of cosmic luck. So, you are sitting in your quiet room. You feel the inexorable pull of the river of time. But now you understand that this feeling is tied to the grand cosmic story of entropy. You are feeling the universe unwind. The memory of your childhood is a memory of a less disordered universe. The warmth escaping from your cup of tea, dispersing into the cooler air of the room, is a tiny, local enactment of the great universal law that gives your life its direction. Every moment of your life, from the most mundane to the most profound, is a small step on the universe's grand march from its perfectly ordered past to its chaotically disordered future. You are a creature of entropy, and the arrow you feel embedded in your consciousness, pulling you from yesterday to tomorrow, was forged in the first, fiery, and impossibly orderly moment of the Big Bang itself. It is the most intimate and personal ghost of creation, a ghost you carry with you, with every passing second of your life. We have journeyed to the edge of physics to understand why time seems to flow in only one direction, discovering that our deepest experience is tied to the universe's relentless march toward disorder, an arrow of time forged in the low-entropy fire of the Big Bang. We have grappled with the idea that our sense of a flowing now might be an illusion, a spotlight moving through a fixed, four-dimensional block of space-time, where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. But the strange, beautiful, and deeply unsettling nature of time does not end there. Einstein wasn't finished. After his theory of special relativity linked space and time, he spent another decade working on an even more profound idea. He wanted to understand the nature of gravity, and in doing so, he would reveal that the river of time does not flow at the same rate for everyone. It is a river that can be bent, stretched, and warped. Its current can speed up and slow down. This is the world of general relativity, and it is where our intuitive, common-sense understanding of time finally and completely breaks down. Einstein's great insight was that gravity is not a force in the traditional sense, not a mysterious rope pulling objects toward each other. He proposed that gravity is a consequence of the curvature of space-time itself. Imagine space-time as a flat, rubber sheet, stretched taut. This is space-time in the absence of any matter or energy. Now place a heavy bowling ball in the center of that sheet. The bowling ball will create a deep dimple, a curve in the rubber. This is what massive objects like stars and planets do to the fabric of space-time around them. they warp it, they bend it. Now roll a small marble across the rubber sheet. If you roll it far from the bowling ball, it will travel in a straight line. But if you roll it near the bowling ball, it will be deflected by the curve, its path bending toward the larger object. It might even fall into an orbit, circling the dimple endlessly. The marble is not being pulled by a mysterious force. It is simply following the straightest possible path through a curved geometric landscape. This is gravity. Gravity is geometry. The Earth is not being pulled by the sun. It is following a straight line through the curved space-time created by the sun's immense mass. This idea is elegant and beautiful, but it has a profound and deeply weird consequence for time. Because it is not just space that is being curved, it is space-time. And that means that gravity doesn't just bend the path of objects, it bends the flow of time itself. The rule is simple. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time passes. Let's go back to our quiet room. You are sitting in your chair. On the floor below you is a clock. On the ceiling above you is another clock. According to Einstein, the clock on the floor, being slightly closer to the center of the Earth, and therefore in a slightly stronger gravitational field, is ticking just a tiny, tiny fraction of a second slower than the clock on the ceiling. The difference is so infinitesimally small that you could never hope to measure it with a normal clock. But with incredibly precise atomic clocks, we can, and we have, measured this effect. Time really does run slower in your basement than it does in your attic. This is not a theory. It is a physical reality that we have to account for every single day. The satellites that make up the global positioning system, GPS in your car or your phone, are orbiting high above the Earth. They are in a much weaker gravitational field than we are down here on the surface. Because of this, their internal clocks tick just a little bit faster than ours do. The difference is only about 45 microseconds per day. It sounds like nothing, but if the engineers who designed the GPS system didn't account for this relativistic effect, if they didn't program the satellites to constantly correct for the fact that their time is running faster than ours, the entire system would fail within minutes. The errors in their timing would accumulate so quickly that the positional information they send back would be off by several miles within a single day. The fact that you can use your phone to navigate to a new restaurant is a daily practical confirmation of one of the most bizarre and counterintuitive ideas in all of science, that gravity stretches time. So, where can this effect be seen in its most extreme form? To witness that, we must travel to one of the most terrifying and fascinating objects in the entire cosmos. We must journey to the edge of a black hole. A black hole is what happens when an immense amount of mass is crushed into an incredibly small volume. It is the collapsed core of a massive, dead star. Its gravity is so powerful that it creates a dimple in space-time that is, for all practical purposes, infinitely deep. It creates a region of space from which nothing, not even light, can escape. This boundary of no return is called the event horizon. Now imagine you and a friend are in two separate spaceships near a large black hole. Your friend decides to be brave. They are going to travel toward the event horizon, while you remain behind at a safe distance, watching them through a powerful telescope. You have both synchronized your watches perfectly. As your friend's ship approaches the black hole, you would see a very strange thing happen. You would see the clock inside their ship begin to tick slower and slower. As they get closer to the immense gravity of the hole, their time is dilating, stretching relative to yours. You would see them moving in slow motion. A wave that would take them 1 second to perform would appear, to you, to take a minute, then an hour, then a year. As they get closer and closer to the event horizon, this effect becomes extreme. You would see their clock slow to a near stop. You would see the light from their ship become redder and dimmer, as the light waves themselves have to fight to escape the immense gravity, losing energy and stretching to longer wavelengths in the process. And then, as their ship reaches the event horizon itself, you would see the most bizarre thing of all. You would see them freeze. Their image would seem to be plastered, frozen, onto the very edge of the black hole for all eternity. The light from their final moment would be stretched to an infinite wavelength, becoming infinitely dim. From your perspective, they would never, ever cross the event horizon. Time, for them, would appear to have stopped completely. But what would your friend experience? From their perspective, inside their own ship, nothing strange is happening to their clock. Time is passing normally for them. A second is still a second. They are waving at you at a normal speed. They look back at you, and from their point of view, it is your clock, in the weaker gravitational field far from the hole that appears to be ticking incredibly fast. They would see the entire future history of the universe flash by in their final moments. They would feel the immense tidal forces of the black hole stretching their ship and their body apart. And they would, from their own perspective, sail smoothly and uneventfully across the event horizon. They would not freeze. They would simply fall into the singularity at the center, the point of infinite density where our understanding of physics and time itself comes to a complete end. So who is correct? Is your friend frozen in time for eternity at the edge of the hole? Or did they cross it and meet their end in an instant? The bizarre, maddening, and beautiful answer of general relativity is that both are correct. Reality and the nature of time itself is relative. There is no single, universal master clock for the cosmos. Every observer has their own clock, and the rate at which it ticks is determined by their motion and their position in a gravitational field. The river of time is not a single, majestic river. It is a vast, interconnected delta of countless streams, some flowing fast and free, others becoming slow, syrupy, and sluggish as they pass through the deep gravitational pools of stars and galaxies. And some streams at the edge of a black hole seem to stop flowing altogether. You are lying in your bed. The earth beneath you, with its immense mass, is creating its own tiny, gentle dimple in the fabric of space-time. The flow of time for you, here in this room, is being slowed ever so slightly by the simple fact that you are near a planet. If you were floating in the empty space between galaxies, your life would pass just a fraction of a second faster. You are a creature whose very heartbeat is governed by the geometry of the cosmos. Your personal experience of the present moment, that fleeting, precious now, is being subtly stretched and shaped by the silent, invisible, and ever-present force of gravity. Time is not just a dimension you move through. It is a landscape, and you are living within its unseen, beautiful, and inescapable curves. We have journeyed to the very edge of reason, into a universe where time is not a steady, universal river, but a fractured, personal, and elastic landscape. We have seen how gravity itself can slow the ticking of a clock, and how the arrow of cause and effect is intimately tied to the grand, cosmic story of entropy, a story that began in the impossibly ordered state of the Big Bang. Our intuitive human sense of time, of a fixed past, a fleeting present, and an open future, has been challenged at every turn by the strange and beautiful truths of physics. But we are left with one final, profound, and deeply personal question. We have explored what time is to a physicist, but what is time to a human being? Why do we perceive it the way we do? Why does our inner, psychological experience of time seem to have its own bizarre, elastic, and often contradictory rules? You are lying in your bed, in the quiet of the night. The digital clock on your bedside table marks the passage of seconds with an unwavering, metronomic precision. Each second is exactly as long as the last. But your own internal clock does not work that way at all. Your perception of time is not a ruler, it is a piece of elastic. Think back to a moment in your life when you were in danger. A near miss in a car, a sudden fall, a moment of pure, shocking fear. What happened to time in that moment? Most people who experience such an event report the same strange phenomenon. Time seemed to slow down. The world went into slow motion. You could perceive details with an incredible, preternatural clarity. You could see the expression on the other driver's face, the pattern of the cracks in the pavement rushing up to meet you. The moment seemed to stretch, to expand, to last for an eternity. But of course, it didn't. The clock on the wall was still ticking at its normal rate. So what happened? It was not time that stretched, it was your perception. In a state of high alert, your brain goes into overdrive. It begins to record memories with a much higher density and fidelity than usual. It is laying down tracks, so to speak, at a much faster rate. And when you look back on that event from the safety of the present, your memory has more data points to read through for that short interval. And so, your brain interprets that high density of memory as a longer duration of time. The terrifying moment felt like it lasted forever, because in the library of your mind, it takes up more shelf space. Now, think of the opposite. Think of a long, boring afternoon from your past. A Tuesday in the office, perhaps, a few years ago. You remember it as a single, monotonous block. The hours seem to drag on, each minute an eternity. But now looking back, the entire 8-hour day has compressed in your memory into a single, featureless, indistinct moment. It has almost no shelf space at all. This is the strange paradox of our internal clock. Time seems to fly when you're having fun, and it drags when you're bored. But in memory, it is the interesting, eventful times that seem long and rich, and the boring, monotonous times that vanish into almost nothing. Our past is not recorded with an even hand. Our memory is a biased historian, giving prominence to moments of emotion and novelty, and allowing the long, dull stretches to fade into an indistinct haze. And this elasticity of psychological time changes over the course of our lives. Why does a summer seem to last for an eternity when you are a child, but now as an adult, entire seasons, entire years seem to flash by in a blur? The answer, again, lies in novelty and perception. When you are a child, almost every experience is new. The first time you see the ocean, the first time you ride a bicycle, the first day of school, these are all novel, data-rich experiences. Your brain is constantly forming new connections, new memories. The world is a place of endless discovery. And so, a single summer is packed with a huge amount of new, memorable information. It takes up a vast amount of shelf space in your memory. As we get older, our lives fall into routines. We drive the same route to work every day. We eat the same few meals. We see the same people. The world becomes familiar. We are no longer laying down dense, new memories. Our brains are running on a kind of autopilot. And so, a year, which was once a vast expanse of time, now feels short because it contains very little that is new to remember. The days are long, but the years are short. It is the great, quiet tragedy of growing older. Our sense of time, then, is not a passive perception of an external reality. It is an active construction of our own minds. It is a story we tell ourselves based on the density and emotional weight of our memories. You are lying in your bed and you feel the presence of your own past. The memories of your life are not like a film reel that can be played back at a constant speed. They are more like a landscape. There are great, towering mountain peaks of joy and sorrow, of love and of fear, the moments that define you. And in between there are long, flat, featureless plains of routine and repetition, the valleys you had to cross to get from one peak to the next. Your sense of your own life story, your own identity, is a journey through this internal, temporal landscape. And what of the future? We are, as a species, obsessed with it. We are the only creatures on this planet, as far as we know, who are capable of mental time travel. A squirrel can bury a nut for the winter, driven by instinct. But a human can lie awake at night and vividly imagine a dozen different possible versions of next week, feeling the anxiety, the hope, the anticipation of events that have not yet occurred and may never occur. We are constantly living in a state of prediction. Our brains are prediction machines. This ability to project ourselves into the future, to learn from the past and make plans, is the source of our greatest achievements. It is what allows us to build cities, to write symphonies, to conceive of flying to the moon. But it is also the source of our deepest anxieties. We are creatures who are burdened and blessed with the knowledge of our own mortality. We are the only animals who can truly comprehend that our own personal river of time has a final, inevitable waterfall. And so, we build clocks, we build calendars, we create elaborate systems to measure, to tame, to control the one thing that is fundamentally uncontrollable. We chop the great, flowing, subjective river of our experience into neat, tidy, objective units: seconds, minutes, hours, days, years. We create the illusion of order in the face of a force that is deeply personal, chaotic, and mysterious. Your digital clock glows in the darkness, 2 a.m., a precise, unambiguous, and completely artificial moment. Outside your window, the great, silent, four-dimensional block of space-time simply is. Inside your mind, the chaotic, elastic, and deeply human story of your own life continues to unfold. Your consciousness, a tiny spark, forever traveling from the remembered mountains of your past toward the foggy, unknown valleys of your future. The journey we have been on tonight has taken us from the most intimate, personal feelings of a passing moment to the grandest, most mind-bending theories of the cosmos. We have learned that our arrow of time is a ghost of the Big Bang's perfect order. We have learned that the rate of time's flow is not constant, but is stretched and bent by the silent force of gravity. And we have learned that our own perception of time is a beautiful, flawed, and deeply personal story written in the language of memory. What is time? We still do not have a single simple answer. It is the great unsolved mystery. It is the river. It is the book. It is a product of entropy. It is a dimension woven into the fabric of reality. It is a trick of the mind. It is all of these things and none of them. But perhaps the most beautiful and most comforting truth is this. While we cannot stop it, we are not merely its passive victims. Through our consciousness, through our ability to remember, to anticipate, and to tell stories, we give it meaning. We are the universe's timekeepers, not in the sense of measuring it, but in the sense of filling it. We fill our small allotted portion of space-time with love, with sorrow, with art, with science, with quiet moments of reflection in a dark room. And that, perhaps, is the truest way to honor the profound and beautiful mystery that carries us all. And so our journey through time comes to an end, right back where we started, in a single, quiet, present moment. We may never fully understand its nature, but our exploration of it reveals the beauty and the strangeness of our own place in the cosmos. We are creatures of time, born from its depths and carried on its current. I hope this journey into the mystery has helped to quiet your own mind. May you appreciate the profound gift of your own fleeting moments. May your rest be deep and peaceful. Until next time, sleep well.